Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Complacency Learning, the show that changes learners' attitude towards learning for better and turns their dreams into reality. As always, I'm your host, Ndibo Chibase, and on our today's episode, we are joined by an individual whose passion lies in helping young individuals achieve incredible results through education and enlightenment. Ladies and gentlemen, talking about Anthony Santillanes, who is here to share with us about what it means to be a true leader. Ladies and gentlemen, sit tight as we welcome you to the show. Hi, Anthony. Welcome to another episode of Complacency Learning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Indy. Doing good. How are you doing?
No, I'm doing awesome. I cannot complain. Hey, it's life is awesome. They say every day above the ground is an amazing day. So we just have to cherish it, right? So
Agreed.
before we start, can I just ask you to tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Yep. So I've been leading teams for about the last 16 years.
Mm,
I'm now the CEO of my own company, the Efficacious company.
mm,
And, for me, my purpose in life is to serve leaders, right? That's what I want to do. I've been, like I said, I've been a leader my entire adult life. And
mm,
I find that if I can serve leaders who then can
mm,
serve those that they lead,
mm.
I'm serving my life's purpose.
All right, awesome, awesome. That's great, actually. Right. So, as a person working with young individuals and their team achieve incredible results through education and enlightenment, what is the one thing that you wish you had known before you began with your career?
I would say that I'm the master of my career.
Mm-hmm,
Early on in my career, just as an example, when I was in the Army here in the
mm-hmm,
United States, I followed the guidance and what the advice that people gave me, without really trusting myself enough to do what I wanted to do. There was a position, for example, where I was in logistics. So my
mm-hmm,
job as a logistics officer was to make sure that we got products and services from point A to point B in a
mm-hmm,
safe, timely manner.
mm-hmm,
And we have within the field of logistics, we got some really specialized units that get to use some really cool equipment, really cool
mm-hmm,
people.
mm-hmm,
But it was never recommended to me for my career. It wasn't a
mm-hmm,
good quote unquote career move. And so I never took advantage of it. And unfortunately, even though I did really well in my career and I
mm-hmm,
followed the advice and I did really good in those jobs, unfortunately, I'll never get an opportunity to do that again, right? Get to work with that equipment, those kinds of people. So, what I would say is for anyone, welcome advice, listen to it, but remember
mm-hmm,
that your career is yours, right? Your
mm-hmm.
destiny is yours to own. So definitely take responsibility for it and trust yourself.
Awesome. Awesome. So in becoming the person you are today, obviously there's failures that you have encountered and looking at where you are now, I can say that you've dealt with them positively, right? So if I may ask, what was your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
So my biggest one actually was in very recently, actually, last couple of
Mm,
years. I had a situation where I was leading training and certification for a
mm,
process improvement methodology that we call Lean Six Sigma.
mm,
So I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt, and just what that means is I'm formally trained in how to improve process, right, using a methodology that's been proven time and again. And what
mm,
I was doing was leading my first group through similar training, right? I'd never done it before. The organization I was in, we had never done it before. We ended up spending several $1,000s, about over 700 hours putting it together and conducting it, only to, by the time we get to the certification exam, every single one of my candidates failed. Not one
mm,
person passed. Every person failed.
mm,
And it was one of those situations where when I went back and looked, what I
mm,
realized was there were some assumptions about my training that
mm,
I didn't validate. I didn't go back to make sure that, hey, I'm going to, I think that this is going to be on the exam. I better include it, or I don't
mm,
think this is going to be on the exam. So I'm not going to talk about that. Because what
mm,
I found was that both of those situations happened. So what I learned from that was, and this isn't just for certification exams or for training, but just in life, make sure that you know what the expectations are for you and how you're
yeah,
going to be evaluated. Don't just assume that because it's an industry standard or within your community, it's just normal that that's
mm,
what you're going to be evaluated to.
mm,
And what I can say is, on a positive note, I went back, revamped that training, and though not
mm,
everyone's certified, we had folks that certified the second round of exams, and
mm,
even those that didn't saw increases around 30, 40% in their exam scores. So So even though they didn't certify, we saw significant improvement after that.
Wow, that's well amazing, you know. So, if I may ask, to those that would like to pursue this, the very same career that you are in right now, right? What advice can you give them?
I'll say one word: you got to
Mm,
grow.
you gotta grow.
Growth is the
Mm,
biggest thing. What I found was, again, just kind of, if I look at my different careers early on, I started in the military. I was very focused on being like the best, right? I was a bit
mm,
competitive. I still am a little bit competitive today, but I wanted to be the best at my job,
mm,
and I got there. I was it,
mm,
right?
mm,
But what I didn't take into account was I wasn't necessarily the best within the military. I wasn't doing the best practices that everyone else was doing. I was just doing the best for those people that are in my specific job. So,
mm,
and as I progressed and matured a bit, I started to look, okay, what's the best in my industry? And then even beyond that, what are best practices even outside my industry, right?
mm, mm, mm,
Especially when we talk about leadership, there are those things that doesn't matter what industry you're in. I've worked in
mm,
the military, manufacturing, software development, and there are those leadership principles that are the same, that if you can
mm,
do them well in one of those fields, it's going to benefit you to do them well in all those fields. So growth is the biggest thing, whether that's through
mm,
formal education, getting a degree, listening to complacency learning, right?
mm, mm,
Taking
yes.
advantage of what you're offering,
Mm,
or if that's reading books, whatever that is, you've
mm.
got to constantly be in a state of growth. And if you're going to get to where I'm at today.
Wow. So now, if I may ask, building on to the next question, what are the resources that have best helped you along the way?
So, for me, so I'm on the John Maxwell team. And for those that don't know, John Maxwell is considered the leadership expert in the world.
Mm,
So of course, I'm on his team. I've been trained by him and his team. So,
mm,
so of course, his books have probably been the most influential for me.
mm,
Three of his books that come to mind. The first one is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
mm, mm,
That's a book where he goes in and he really identifies, what are those 21 things that every leader needs to do, know,
mm,
say in order to be effective.
mm,
The next book from John Maxwell is the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. That's
mm,
a book where he goes in and he really goes into, so I talked about growth in your last question, Indy.
mm,
He spends an entire book talking about how do you do it, right? So of
mm,
course, for me, that's been a huge help, and also it just sets up your mindset, right? So that you're in a constant state of growth and you're seeking it out. It's not just by
mm,
chance, right?
mm,
And then I would say, a third book that John's that has been really huge for me is Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn.
mm,
And for me, what that book taught me to do is really welcome failure.
mm, mm,
Because if I look back,
mm,
I go back to your question that you had asked me, what's the biggest failure I've had recently that I learned from?
mm,
If that wouldn't have happened, if the exam would have went perfectly and everybody would have passed,
mm.
the training wouldn't have been as good as it is now,
Yeah.
right? It would have been okay,
Mm,
obviously, but it wouldn't
mm,
be nearly what it is today,
mm,
based off the improvements and the changes that were made. So that book has really taught me that. In terms of like people that I listen to,
mm,
there's two that come to mind, YouTube channels that I watch pretty frequently. Lewis Hughes,
mm,
he has what he calls the School of Greatness, pretty good one.
mm.
And then Marie Forleo, she's got a
Mm,
pretty good one as well.
mm, mm. Well, that's a great description for the books that you've mentioned, and I have to say that I would really love to try them. I mean, read them. So I'm gonna make sure that I follow on them actually, because I mean, from what you've given to us, that really means the books are nice. Like you even said, like they even teach you how to welcome failure, of which I believe that it's something that as human beings, it's something that we need to do. Because there's a quote, I don't know who's the author, that goes like, well, if you're not failing, then you're not doing anything creative. So I believe
Yeah.
that, yeah, failure means we're doing something creative, and at the end of the day, it's even worth it. Like we even celebrate it as it comes, right? So now, speaking about the people that you listen to, right? Who are the three people that have been the most influential to you?
So I don't know if every son says this, but I'm gonna say number one is my mom.
Mm,
Uh, you
mm,
know, my mom,
mm,
she's taught me both sides of the coin of how to be very stern
mm,
and strict, but then
mm,
also how to be very graceful and compassionate at the same.
mm, mm,
Just two quick stories to kind of explain. When I
mm,
was in college, I went to a military college where freshman year is pretty tough.
mm,
We had I think something like 20-30% don't make it through the first week or two.
mm,
So pretty high attrition rate. And I was on week 3, and I remember that, I was calling it quits. I was done. I was about 1,000 miles from home. I didn't know anybody there. I wasn't from there. I didn't have any friends there, no family there. And I'm in this place that I was like, this isn't for me. This is for somebody else. And I remember I called home and I called my mom, and it's kind of embarrassing now, but I called her and I was like, hey, I'm done. I need you to come get me. Right. I was 18. I didn't know any better. I'm like, I need you to come get me. I can't do this. And I remember she told me to put some tough skin on, get back out there, and then hung up on me.
Wow.
She was not coming out there. And I didn't have any money, so I didn't have a way to get back on my own. So I was like, I was truly left with, I just got to figure this out, right? So there's that side, and then on the other side, though, one thing that my mom's also done, she's a nurse, been a nurse her whole adult life, and we had this tradition when she lived in Texas, where we would invite patients from the nursing home the hospital that she worked at, over to our house for Thanksgiving. So we would have, to us, to those of us at home, complete strangers, we would welcome into our home for our Thanksgiving holiday, where we would feast and, have all those celebrations and everything like that. So she just really sort of taught me, there are times in life we need to be strict, put that tough skin on, right, and stick it out. And then there are other times we need to show compassion and be graceful.
What an incredible
So my
person
mom's
she
definitely
is.
number one. Yeah. And then number 2 for me, of course, I'm going to say John Maxwell. I'm going to, I think I've got one more, I'm a huge fan, obviously, but I think, and not just because of his books or his content, but where John has been really huge for me is that he's really helped me identify as a leader, right? So it's not just, I'm a manager, I'm a supervisor. It's like part of who I am. So it doesn't matter if I'm at work, if I'm with my family or with friends or with complete strangers. If there's a point that a leader needs to step up, I so identify with it that I just do, right? That I'm like, okay, we need a leader. That's me. I'm one of those, right? And then number 3 for me is you might have heard, Indy, Tony Robbins. So
Yes,
Tony
yes, I've
Robbins
heard
for
of
me.
him.
Okay, yeah.
It is very good, hey.
Tony Robbins.
It's very good. Like I've been like, there was one time I was even looking at his references. I see that he has worked with a lot of actors like Gerard Butler and all those other actors. And well, yes, actually helped them very well to actually become the people that they are today. So Tony Robbins like is that person. Yeah, sorry
Yeah.
for interrupting. You may proceed.
Oh, perfect, Indy. You're perfect.
Uh,
Yeah, and for me, where Tony Robbins has been really helpful for me is,
mm,
he's really helped me identify those limiting beliefs that I've had about myself, right? Things I didn't
mm,
even know were holding me back.
mm,
And not just to identify them, but to eliminate them and then replace them with empowering beliefs. I'll be
mm,
honest.
mm,
I had wanted to sort of run my own company for a few years,
mm,
and then it was a Tony Robbins event where it
mm,
was like, it was just so powerful that I was like, okay, I need to do this now. Like,
mm,
this isn't something I'm going to wait for. It's,
mm,
I'm not going to wait for the economy to be right, for,
mm,
for everything to line up exactly like it's
mm,
supposed to.
mm,
If I'm going to do this, I'm going to own it. I'm going to take responsibility, and I'm going to go now. Right.
mm,
And so Tony's been huge for that. And not just in my professional life, but also my personal life as well, with my wife and my kids,
mm.
and my other family as well. I mean, he's been really a powerful influence for me.
Awesome, awesome. And one thing that's common between us, right, is the fact that we help people through education, of which is amazing because I mean, education is the future, right? It unlocks so many doors, right? So now, speaking of education, like looking at the teachers, right? So they say teachers work lesser hours compared to other professions, right? Of which I believe is false because I mean, teachers have to stay at night making sure they plan the lessons, marking the learner scripts and everything, right? So looking at your profession, right? So what is the one common myth that you would like to debunk?
I would say that there are some people that are leaders and that some that aren't.
Mm,
Whether that's
mm,
in the teaching community, whether
mm,
that's, again, your personal life, whatever that is.
mm, mm,
I think people, there's always a debate, our teacher, are leaders made, or are they born, right?
mm,
And then regardless of which house of thought you fall into, or some
mm,
hybrid of the two,
mm,
if you believe that leaders are born, then you have to believe that some leaders aren't. Like, some people were
mm,
born not to be leaders, right?
mm, mm,
And if you believe that leaders are made, then you have to
mm,
believe that some people aren't leaders yet. And what I would, what I would argue is that if you're in a role where you have influence, right, whether that's in your career, whether that's in your personal life, right, if you're a parent, right, you're a leader, right, you're leading children. If you are considered an expert in your industry or an expert in your current organization, right, you are a leader, right? You may not be formally, you may not have the job title of one, but you're leading people, right? And even if you tell me, well, I don't have any family or friends or a job, or I don't influence anyone else, you're at least leading yourself, right? You're a leader. If of no one else, you're a leader of yourself, right? Because for most of us, we're not being force fed, we're not being forced to make the decisions we make, we're not being forced to hang out with the people we hang out with, or drive the car we drive, or whatever those decisions are. So if of no one else, you're leading yourself. So, for me, the biggest myth is that there are some people that are leaders and some aren't. I would argue that everyone's a leader. It's just the breadth of their leadership that varies.
Wow, I never even thought about it like that, right? So, but well, that's I don't know. I'm actually blown from that. So then now, if I may ask, right, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I did not?
What advice would I give to leaders that are young in their leadership career, right?
Mm,
Not
that's
necessarily
a
young in
great one.
age, but young in their
Mm,
leadership career.
mm,
Because what I find, what I've experienced, and I saw
mm,
this, I saw this in the military. I've seen this in manufacturing. I've seen this in
mm,
software development.
mm,
And so I think it's a common thing. I don't think it's an industry thing.
mm,
I don't know that it's even an American thing or a Western
mm,
thing. I think this is just a human thing. Is
mm,
that when someone does well, we like to think that if they do well in that job, we should promote them and they'll do
mm,
better or do as good in the next
mm,
job, which usually involves some amount of leadership, right?
mm,
And unfortunately, what I have found is,
mm,
sometimes it works, sometimes it works beautifully.
mm,
But more often, if there's not some intentional, deliberate effort on that young leader to develop themselves,
mm,
you run into problems, right?
mm,
They lead however they've seen it because they think, well, that's just what leadership is. That's how you lead people, right? So
mm,
hopefully, whoever led them was good, but more
mm,
often than not, that person was led a similar way, and they didn't know any better, so
mm,
they just replicated what that person did.
mm,
And so what I would say is, there's really three things as a leader, especially as a
mm,
young leader, that you've got to do.
mm,
Number one is get to know yourself,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
Understand, get under a handle on what motivates you, what inspires you, what excites you, but also what frustrates you, what
mm,
causes
mm,
anxiety, right?
mm,
And get a
mm,
handle on why those things happen.
mm,
Because then you can put things in place to potentially mitigate those things, right? Or prevent those things. Because if as a leader, you're not making as good decisions or as
mm,
servant oriented decisions if you're
mm,
scared, if you're afraid, if you're worried about what people are going to think about you, right? um, you're going to have problems.
mm,
The second thing I would say for any young leader is you've got to learn
mm,
how to connect with people. There's
mm,
actually two books for this. Another John Maxwell,
mm,
John Maxwell's book,
mm, mm,
Everyone Communicates If You Connect, is a great one. And then
mm,
the classic, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
mm,
Those are two books that I strongly recommend to really get a handle on how to connect with people, because no matter what's going on around you, if you can connect with people,
mm,
you're light years ahead of someone who can't, quite frankly.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and then the third thing I would say is, and this kind of goes into number one,
mm,
the third point that I would make is, as a young leader, what I would advise you to do is get a handle on, are you serving, are you a leader because you want to serve, or are you a
mm,
leader for a different reason, right?
mm,
And if it's for any other reason, right? Whether it's for position, for title, for
mm,
prestige, for authority, for whatever that might be, if it's for any
mm,
reason other than serving,
mm,
find a cause to get behind to serve, because
mm.
that's really the only good reason to be a leader, is to serve.
Going back, well, that's actually a great question with an amazing response, right? So going back to point number two, I believe that most of us, the reason why we are not where we are is because we care a lot about what people think, and then that comes in our way, and then at the end of the day, we tend to put it off because we feel like if people are gonna react negatively, then it's not even worth doing it because we don't even want to be laughed at, and some of us are even too scared to fail, so I think for you to bring it up, it's actually amazing, and I think it had to come up, and to our listeners, right? So where can they connect with you online?
So my business website is theefficacious.com.
Mm, it looks
And
great,
then
by
you can
the
also
way.
email me, Anthony at
Mm,
theefficacious.com.
mm,
And actually, Indy, if you don't mind, anyone that emails me, I will give them a free copy of my book that I just released, in January, and then I'm going to send you a free copy as well. Just
Awesome.
because I really appreciate you having me on here, and I definitely want to give as much value to your audience as possible as well.
Mm. Awesome. Awesome. Well, going to the last question, right? uh, Learning, it's a process, right? Some of us, we just think, well, you need to just go to sleep and then you wake up tomorrow, then you've learned whatever you want to learn through your dreams, you know. And sometimes people just feel like, you know what, I don't really need to learn something to do it. And then they go at it and fail terribly. And then they come back and say, you know what, well, I wish I hadn't done it. And they blame others for actually even encouraging them to do so, right? So, if I may ask, what does the word learning mean to you?
So for me, and by the way, Andy, those are all great points. I found that as well. Some people that they don't. Yeah, learning's just kind of like an option.
Mm,
I would argue learning is
mm,
never an option.
mm,
Um, so for me though, learning is being in a state of mind where you're open to new ideas.
mm,
That's what learning is. If you're ever, even if that's different from what you believe, right? Even if that's
mm,
different from how you were raised, if that's different from what your friends think,
mm,
or different from what you've seen in the past. Not
mm,
saying you have to radically, just leave all your beliefs out there open to change,
mm,
let the world change them for you.
mm,
But to at least be open to hear the ideas,
mm,
in those methodologies and mindsets and processes, because
mm,
the second you start closing off those parts of your psyche,
mm,
that's when you stop learning, right?
mm,
So for me, that's what learning is. It's just being in a constant state of openness to
mm,
take in, new mindsets, ideologies, beliefs, information, whatever that might be.
mm, mm. Wow, that's a great definition right there. I have to admit, well, I'm done with the questions that I wanted to ask you, right? So before you go, can I just ask you to tell us about the what is it? The efficacious, right? Am I saying it correctly? Efficacious. The
Yep.
efficacious, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the
What
efficacious
do you
company.
do?
Yep.
What is it about? And yeah, what do you cover? Like, how does it go? How does it work? I mean, yeah.
So we have a few different avenues. So what we try to do is and this kind of comes back to my core belief that, or one of my core beliefs that,
Mm,
we all have. I think we're all destined to do more than just, work 40, 50
mm,
hours, 60 hours a week,
mm,
right? Get a good job, get married, have
mm,
kids, pay
mm,
taxes, and die.
mm,
Right.
mm,
I think life was meant to be more than that.
mm,
Um, I think life was meant to be rich. It's meant to have depth. It's meant to be enjoyed.
mm,
And not just on the weekends, but all the
mm,
time.
mm,
Um, and so for me, when I created the Efficacious company, I created it with that idea, right?
mm,
How do we maximize people's life's outcomes? So we do this through a couple different ways. Number one is, we actually have a few online courses. We
mm,
have, for, how to maximize your time, how to understand process. And then we even have a
mm,
companion course to the book that just got published in January.
mm,
We also do coaching. So we do individual coaching and team
mm,
coaching. Individual coaching is definitely, I'll be honest, it's definitely more geared
mm,
for leadership, for
mm,
those that are in leadership roles.
mm,
It's not necessarily like life coaching, if you will. And
mm,
then the team coaching is definitely take what we do at leadership and do the same thing, but now apply it to a team.
mm,
And then the other thing we like to do is, this right here, Indy, right?
mm,
One-on-ones with, incredible people that are helping influence,
mm,
in their communities, through
mm,
podcasts, through YouTube, through whatever that might be.
mm,
We definitely want to connect with you as much as possible so that, we can help extend your influence as well.
mm. Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm gonna join without a doubt, right? I'm gonna enroll for one, right? So, I just wanna say, we live in a very busy world, and I just wanna say thank you for actually taking your time from your busy schedule, to come and share with us, about, the journey, about the experience in creating the life that you truly love. So, without any further ado, I would like to wish you a very safe trip, unless if there's something else that you would like to add.
I want to say thank you as well, Indy.
Mm,
I think, it's absolutely great what you're doing, your mission.
mm,
If I'm not, I wouldn't call myself a teacher per se. I would,
mm,
I like to think that, I help influence and educate.
mm,
So I do, but I look at you and I look at what you're doing, and it's just
mm.
absolutely incredible, man. Keep it up. And yeah, I look forward to being on your show in the future.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. And we shall continue with this relationship, just see how we can, expand into this world of education, see how we can even further help more people, together we can touch one soul at a time, you never know how much effect what you do. I mean, you never know how well. I think I'm losing my English. You'll never know the impact that you have on other people's lives, through what you do, right? So, with
Right.
that being said, I just want to say to you, I wish you all the best. I also wish I was, busy on the road, for like how long now? 9 months, right? Did you say 9 months or 9 years?
9 months. We'll be on the road
Nine
for
months.
9 months.
9 months. Wow. So well, I wish I was doing that also, because I mean, going around the world, seeing what's out there, it's like you're giving your eyes those great visuals, and creating those best memories, right? So I just want to say to you, please do enjoy the rest of your day. And as for me, I'm just gonna go to sleep now. It's very late at night now.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Indy.
All right. Thank you. Cheers.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. We do believe without a doubt that you have enjoyed today's episode. And guys, please be sure to like and subscribe so you are notified when a new episode is posted. While you're at it, remember the bell icon and also to contact Anthony Santillanes on the details provided at the bottom of the screen to get a free copy of his book. And guys, please have a great 2021. I wish you nothing but the best and please stay safe.